Hi, what's up, everybody? How you doing? My name is Fitz, and I am a licensed acupuncturist. Yes, and it's my first time going live on this channel, so it's gonna take a while for y'all to catch on. So, just want to say thank you for everybody. Y'all awesome, and please subscribe and like the video. Now, today I'm gonna talk about anatomy, human anatomy. All right. I'm gonna do much more. I'm gonna do other videos about what acupuncture is and all that stuff. Okay. Um, but as an acupuncturist, I study Eastern medicine, but also study Western medicine. Also, Western medicine is the regular medicine that everyone's used to in the West. With medical doctors and stuff. As an acupuncturist, we have to know Western medicine stuff also, but we view the body differently from medical doctors. Okay, because it's all about energy flow, chi. Our body's full of acupuncture points. That's good for a lot of stuff. Acupuncture is good for stress. It's good for infertility. It's good for migraines, sciatica pain, low back pain, insomnia, um, um, fatigue, obesity. The list goes on and on and on. But I'm gonna cover that on other videos. But in this video, I'm gonna just talk about the human anatomy. Okay, just human anatomy. All right, and I'm gonna react to this video by a doctor. I forget his name, but he's gonna say it right now. And then I'm gonna do my I'm gonna let the doctor speak, but I'm gonna also comment on the video also. Okay, so again, please don't forget to subscribe, everybody, and let's get this going. All right, let's get this going. First, I gotta put on, let's shrink this screen. All right, there we go. And let's go.
Hey everybody, Dr. O here. In this video, we're going to cover one of the most important topics in anatomy and physiology, and that is your surface anatomy terms, or your superficial anatomy. Now, the reason this is so important,
Now, when it comes to studying medicine, all right, you're gonna you're gonna come across a lot of words that you haven't seen before. All right, but the good thing about medicine, or medical terminology, is that once you know, it's all about prefixes and suffixes. Okay, prefixes are words that come at the beginning. Well, are parts of words that come at the beginning, and then suffixes comes at the end. Right. So, for instance, if you hear the word like osteo, osteo means bones. Like osteosarcoma. So osteo is the prefix, sarcoma is the suffix. Okay, so that's what I mean by that. So when it comes to medical terms, it's very important to know exactly um, which terms mean what. But there's easy ways to study, and the Dr. O is going to break it down for us right now.
this is going to be a longer video, but I want you to watch it multiple times. I want you to try to master this terminology now, because it's going to make your entire life easier as you move forward through A&P and then also through your clinical courses. And that's because once you know these terms, it's going to make it that much easier for you to name your bones, muscles, joints, arteries, veins, nerves, and lymphatic.
So that's very important. He just said a key thing here. Once you know, I just mentioned that earlier. Once you know certain terms, once you know medical terminology in general, it's literally another language. But once you get used to it, that's why you got to study these terms over and over again, over and over again. You got to practice over and over again, and then eventually it's going to be etched into your brain, and then it's going to be coming out like a different language. And then eventually you're going to be fluent in that language. So medical terminology is very important in medicine,
because these are the terms we use to describe where those things are. So, I mean, you could use so many different examples, but like the axilla, the armpit is called the axilla or the axillary area. So you now know where the axillary artery, axillary nerve, axillary vein.
Okay, so that's a good example right now. So the axilla is basically the armpit. So then if you hear that term axilla, and like Dr. O just said, so if you hear a term axillary artery, axillary vein, so okay, you know what? That vessel is running through the armpit.
You know where these things are once you know these terms. So super, super important. All right, before we dive in, I will kind of zoom in so you can see things better. This guy is standing in the anatomical position. I've covered that in a separate video, but that means he's standing up, standing erect, standing up. Everything's facing forward, feet forward, palms of his hands are forward.
Okay, so this is very important. This is very important because when you study medicine, especially at the beginning, you're gonna hear this term a lot. The anatomical position. Anatomical position. If you hear that term, like Dr. O just said, that means you're standing, straight forward, standing with feet forward, palms forward, and eyes forward. That's the anatomical position. So if you hear that term, this is how we study the human body when it comes to studying the front part. It's just easier to just name organs or name, superficial structures and stuff like that by just saying that anatomical position. Okay. So again, standing with feet forward, palms forward, and eyes forward.
Eyes facing forward. So unless you're told otherwise, someone is in the anatomical position. Now, if he was laying on his back, he'd be supine on your spine. If he was laying on his stomach, he'd be prone. But just so you understand, because that's a term that.
Okay, so you definitely have to know these terms. I mean, all the terms you have to know, but when you hear a patient is in the supine position, like Dr. O just said, supine, that means the person is on his back. The way I remembered it in medical school was, so if you're on your back, that means your hands, if you're on your back, right? So your hand is going to be facing up for the most part. So it's like you have a soup in your hands. So supine, soup. So picture you're on your back and you're holding a cup of soup, supine. Okay, so that's how I remembered it. But also supine, spine. So spine is on your back, of course. So that means you're on your back. The prone position means that you're on your belly. Okay, the prone position, you're on your belly. Supine and prone. Those are the two terms we use when somebody is, on a bed or on a table.
That's the position that he's in. This is to minimize confusion. All right, so let's just a couple of the key examples here. So the frontal area is your forehead. That's where your frontal bone is. The cranium would be the skull there. Facies or face, we don't use that term very much. Oris means mouth or oral.
Yeah, so he's right. Facies, that term, we definitely don't use that term that much at all. Okay, but of course, cranium, we use cranium. So of course, let's continue.
So if you give an oral presentation, you're using your mouth. So you're going to learn a muscle later called the orbicularis oris. We now know where that is. Your chin is mentis. So I always think of the thinker, the statue of the guy sitting there with his hand on it.
So that O just said, when you think about mouth, we call it the oris or the mouth, or oral cavity and stuff like that. So the chin, we call that mentis. Now, I know some of you are probably saying, why can't we just say chin? No, because when we, in medicine, we have to have different terms. It's just to communicate better, and then that way, there's many reasons for that, but it's just for healthcare professionals just to communicate better. It's like we speak in the same language, right? Different language from the regular language, but medical professionals, we speak the same language. So mentis means the chin.
On his chin thinking. That's why your chin is called your mental area. Oculus or orbit is for the eye. So the orbicularis.
Again, that the O just said, the oculus or the eye, the orbital or the ocular. Okay.
Ocularis muscle will be around the eye. Bucca means cheek. So we have a muscle there called the buccinator or buccinator. Oris.
Bucca means cheek, like he said. And then these terms, that's why it's good to practice them, because the more you practice, the easier it's going to get.
Or otic for your ear. Otic is the term that I use most often. Nasus or nose, nasal, nothing too big there. And then your neck is going to be your cervicis or cervical. So that's why your cervical vertebrae are there in your neck.
So, like Dr. O said at the beginning of this video, it's good to study this video over and over again just to get used to these terms. And then that's why in medicine, when you become a physician or a nurse or anything, we call it practicing medicine, because there's always studying and reviewing. Even after you get your license, a medical degree, you still have to continue learning, continue to practice. Because I guarantee you, if you don't do medicine, if you graduate from medical school and you don't do medicine for like, if 2 or 3 or 4 years, you're gonna forget some stuff. Okay, so it's good to practice. So even when you get your license.
Neck. Next area, so I already mentioned the axilla is your armpit. That's one that comes up quite a bit. Your arm is called the brachium. So speaking of terminology, this whole thing isn't your arm. This part up here is the arm. This is your forearm down here. So the brachium.
Did you hear that? So in these videos I'm gonna be doing, I'm gonna be debunking certain myths or certain wrong information. Like that the O just said, your from your shoulder to your hands is not really it's not your arm. Okay, so the brachium is basically the first part of your arm before the elbow, and then from the elbow to your wrist, call it the forearm.
Brachium is your arm, so you'll see that the brachial muscles, brachial arteries, etc., are going to be there. The antecubitus is the front of the elbow. The antebrachium there would be your forearm. Your wrist is your carpus. So I was like saying, people.
So carpus, I'm pretty sure some of y'all heard that term before, carpus or carpal tunnel syndrome. Okay, carpus means wrist, and carpal. So if you hear the term carpal tunnel syndrome, that's when the median nerve is getting irritated around the carpal tunnel, which is like a quote unquote a tunnel that the say median nerve goes under, certain tendons, and then that could cause the nerve to become irritated.
People say carpe diem, seize the day. Well, you seize something with your hands. Your carpus is going to be your wrist bones there. Then your fingers are going to be your digits or your phalanges, the palm of your hand, just like you already know. Then your thumb is called the pollex.
So the thumb is called the pollex, but your fingers are called digits, right? First digit, second digit, third digit.
On that side. Other side, this is going to be your thoracic region, your chest. Everything above the diaphragm is in the thoracic region. Mamma.
Now, we're gonna get into what a diaphragm is in other videos, but it's an organ that helps mammals breathe. Okay, notice I said mammals because birds do not have diaphragms, reptiles do not have diaphragms, but mammals do. Humans are mammals. Dogs have diaphragms. Okay, in another video I'm gonna talk more about how it functions, but basically when you're taking a breath, that when you're breathing, the diaphragm is responsible for causing the pressure volume to when you take a breath or you exhale, the diaphragm expands or contracts, whatever, and then that causes the pressure to either drop in your chest or rise, and then that's when the process of ventilation kicks in. But that's another video. But just know that above the diaphragm is called the thoracic or the thorax or chest.
Or mammary for breast. Think mammary glands, abdominal or.
That's pretty simple. Mammary, mamma or breast, mammary glands. Okay, mammals have that.
Abdomen, you know that one. The umbilicus, your belly button. I couldn't think of it there. I think of all these terms, but not that. The umbilical region there would be where your umbilical cord.
And you see exactly. I'm sure you heard these terms before. You know what I'm saying? Abdomen, umbilicus is when your umbilical cord was. It was the lifeline to your mother when you was in her stomach, and of course the hip, right, or the coxal.
Was attached. Hip, the word for hip is coxal. So we have our pelvic bones as a group are called the os coxa or coxal bones. Your groin or inguinal. So we'll use the term inguinal quite a bit. We'll talk about the inguinal.
Yes, that's very important also. Most of y'all probably heard the word groin, or this athlete put a groin muscle. Okay, but another word for it is called inguine.
Canal when we talk about the male reproductive system. and then you have the pubis there. So those are going to be all the key ones in this area. And again, I know I'm flying through these, but just I want to make sure you know what they sound like, or at least how I say them, and get a quick introduction to them. It's going to take a long time to master these. We need to apply them for you to really get it, but you got to lay a foundation here.
Yeah, and like I said, he is flying through it, but like I mentioned earlier, and like you mentioned earlier, it takes practice, 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 practice. That's how I learned these terms. You got to just practice, practice, practice.
All right, so we already covered. So now we're down. You see the patella, or is where your kneecap would be, the patellar area. The front of your lower limb there is called the crus. Now notice when we say leg, so again, this whole thing isn't your leg. You actually have the thigh or femoral region on the top. The leg is just the bottom. So it's kind of weird, right?
Did you hear that? So when you say leg, we don't talk from the hip down to the ankle. It's basically from kneecap on down to the ankle. That's actually the leg. If you're going to get technical, and the patella or the kneecap. So you know, I'm sure people heard the term patella before. Okay, and then he's going to get to the tarsus. Remember, on the wrist we call it the carpal or the carpus, but then on the ankle is the tarsus.
Right, but in A and P, the arm is only the top of the arm, the leg is only the bottom of the leg, but no big deal. So your ankle bones, your ankle region is called your tarsus. So your wrist was your carpals. Your tarsal bones are going to be there in your ankle. Same for your toes, though, are going to be your digits and your phalanges. Your great toe or your big toe, toe number 1, is called the hallux. Whereas,
so you heard that. So the big toe is called that. It's called the hallux. Where the thumb is called the pollex. Okay, big toe hallux, thumb is called pollex.
your thumb was the pollex. So we mentioned the pelvic area earlier. We mentioned inguinal, pubis as well. So the femur or the thigh region is going to be the femoral region. That's going to be where your femoral artery is, etc. Then we have the foot. I usually call it the pedal, but
So that's very important also. Femur. Okay, femur, longest bone in our body, strong bone also. So when you hear the word femoral artery, so you're gonna think, okay, that artery runs in the femur region. So that's how you're gonna put these words together. Femur, femoral artery. So
pes or pedal are the terms used for foot. Think about pushing down a gas pedal. So
right.
that makes sense at least. Now we have the entire back here. Let me go ahead and zoom in. So your head is called your cephalic region. So with your directional terms, you'll.
That's very important to know. I mean, all these words are important to know. But cephalic region, cephalon means head. Okay, cephalic vein, cephalic. Just remember that.
You'll see cephalic and cranial are kind of used interchangeably. We already covered the neck as the cervix's area. Oh, I didn't say that your thoracic cavity here on the front, but your thoracic vertebrae, your thoracic spine will be in the same area on the back. Another term for your shoulder is acromial. So you're going to see the acromion process, which is part of the AC joint, is going to be right.
When we get more into the human anatomy and the bone structure, I'm going to explain what an acromion process is. But just for now, for the purpose of this video, the shoulder, we call it the acromial.
Right there. Your back is dorsum or dorsal. Think dorsal fin on a shark or a dolphin. We already covered brachium. The back of the elbow is called the olecranon. That's going to be where the.
Remember that term. The back of the elbow is called the olecranon, right? And he's going to get to the lumbar region or the lumbus or loin, okay?
The olecranon process and olecranon fossa are going to be. Your low back is called the lumbar region, which means loin. So that's going to be where your lumbar spine is. Sacrum, right below your lumbar vertebrae, that the sacrum and coccyx make up your tailbone there. As we already said, the forearm is the antebrachium. The hand is called the manus. So you do manual labor with your hands. So the hand.
Again, these terms are new to some people. It may seem like a lot. You may ask yourself, why can't we just say hand? No, because as healthcare professionals, we have to speak our own language. It just makes it easier to relate. It makes it easier to talk to other doctors and other nurses and other healthcare professionals. All right, because these terms are universal.
And as a unit is called manus. What do we got here? Gluteus. So your buttock area is called the gluteus.
Okay, now basically your butt is called the gluteus maximus. Well, that's the muscle, but your gluteus region, your butt region, okay, or buttocks.
Region, that's going to be where your gluteus maximus muscle is. Femoral region, same on the front.
Now, when I start going over acupuncture points and stuff like that, you know, you're gonna see how acupuncture, how these points travel through the body, and just along this. Let me see if the mouse is showing on this thing. Give me a sec. Hard to see if the mouse is showing, but you see right here. If I put this here, hopefully y'all can see the my mouse. So when I start talking about acupuncture points and acupuncture in general, you're gonna see how some acupuncture points fall along here. The bladder channel continues down this leg right here. Actually, both legs. Okay, like for instance, behind the kneecap is gonna be what we call bladder 40. All right, but again, this is human anatomy right now, but just for the future, when I get more in depth into what acupuncture is and stuff, so you're gonna see. Let's continue.
Front and the back. The front of the knee was called the patella. The back of the knee is called the popliteus, and that's going to be where the popliteus muscle is. Your calf is called sura. So you won't see this term very often anymore, but there is something called the triceps sura or surae, which is going to be your soleus muscle and the gastrocnemius muscles. All your calf muscles as a group are called the triceps surae because the calf is called the sura.
Right. Dr. O, of course, is correct. The term sura, at least I haven't used that much. I have not used that term that much at all. Because there's other ways to describe the calf or the gastrocnemius muscle or the soleus muscle, which looks like a fish, actually.
Or surae. Your heel is called the calcaneus. You're going to see this. People talk about the Achilles tendon. It's actually called the calcaneal tendon because it's attached to the heel there. The plantar surface of your foot is the sole of your foot. And then that's it. All right. So I know we're just kind of flying through these. You have to study these, but I at least wanted you to hear them come out of my mouth so you know how I say them. And I also wanted to remind you, super important to learn these terms. The more you learn right now here in chapter 1, the easier things are going to be when you're naming bones, muscles, joints, arteries, veins, nerves, lymphatics. So it's going to help you a lot in the future. I hope this helps. Have a wonderful day. Be blessed.
All right. So that's the end of this video. And I know we kind of rushed through this, but like Dr. O said, and like I said earlier, also, you got to study these terms over and over again. All right. What you want to do is do not get frustrated. Don't get stressed out. Don't overthink things too much. All right. Take your time to learn these terms, especially for some of y'all going to medical school or even veterinary school or nursing school or PA, a physician assistant, registered nurse, whatever. It's good to just practice. For those of y'all who want to be acupuncturists, you still need to know these terms. There's a when I was at acupuncture school, some of my classmates did not want to learn what we call Western medicine stuff, but we need to learn as acupuncturists. We need to know Western medicine also, not just Eastern medicine. So that's it. Remember, this video is just for educational purposes only. If you have concerns or any health concerns or weight concerns, always consult with your doctor first before you do anything. Always consult with your doctor if you have any questions about your health or health in general. So hope you enjoyed this video about the human anatomy, the introduction to it. And remember, study. Feel free to leave comments. Feel free. I'm gonna eventually give y'all email to you. I'm gonna give y'all one of my email addresses if you want to email me questions also. Okay. So until next time, I will see y'all later.